Hi, we're the Perrys. I'm Regina,
Hi, Chris.
and we're going to speak about communication in marriage today. It's really a shame we're not able to do this in person, but we hope you find this helpful, and we look forward to hopefully meeting each of you in a few weeks.
A little bit about us. We got married at St. Charles ourselves. That was 17 years ago. And we have been involved with the marriage prep group for almost 5 years.
Um, One thing you're going to notice through all of these presentations is that communication is a very strong theme in the marriage prep program. It's going to be mentioned in almost every topic. And how you communicate as a couple will really affect every aspect of your relationship. And the better you learn to communicate with each other, the easier it'll be to navigate the challenges and phases of your life together.
So
So let's
let's,
jump right into it.
yeah, absolutely. In the beginning of your relationship, hopefully everything is relatively easy. You're getting to know each other, you're enjoying each other's company, and talking should come naturally. So with that, you'll get married and live happily ever after, right?
That's the hope.
Um, and certainly there's fantastic things to look forward to, whether that's moving in together, creating new traditions, your careers and those milestones, starting a family perhaps. Lots of great excitement.
That is true, but sometimes it is easy to feel like once the courtship and the relationship, the wedding, once the wedding's over, it's time to stop putting our best self forward. And communication can sometimes decline once you're married and you're just caught up in the daily routines of life. If you do have children, they bring a lot of joy into your lives, but parenting is challenging, and the focus frequently shifts away from just the two of you and your relationship as a couple, and it involves an awful lot more. There are other aspects like work, finance, extended family, holidays, and they can also cause a lot of stress. And simply put, there's just a lot of noise in life that happens, and it gets in the way of good communication. And all of this noise will be a lot easier to navigate if you and your spouse find a way to communicate well.
Absolutely. Um, and sometimes, you know, even despite all those challenges, it's easy to fall into just a habit of not communicating, because life is crazy or because life is mundane. Um, Whether that's just zoning out to the TV or each of you, separately paying attention to your smartphones.
I'm guilty of
Sometimes,
that.
sometimes we all are. But sometimes you find that you're just not engaged with each other, like you'd like to be. So there is a video about communication that we usually show during marriage prep, and hopefully it's been provided along with each of these videos. Um, that is called
It's not
it's
about the nail.
Yep, it's not about the nail. So hopefully you could take a pause and watch that if you haven't already. It's humorous, but really makes a very good point about the struggle that a couple can have to communicate.
Communicate clearly.
Right.
Okay. Another that video is one example of the struggles of communication and the ways that people perceive things differently. But we're going to try another exercise right now to illustrate the point that's sort of brought out in the nail video. So I'm going to hold up a piece of paper, and when you see that piece of paper, just think of the first emotion that comes to mind, an emotion or a feeling that strikes you when you look at it. Share your response with your fiance. If you need to pause and discuss it for a moment, feel free. But let's see what happens. So I'm going to hold up a piece of paper. What feeling or emotion is the first that strikes you when you see this paper? Okay, pause us and then come back when you need to.
Back. Um, so very, very simple exercise. And if we were in the larger group at church, we would have discussed everyone's different answers, and probably done more than one color. But the answers come back in a range from love for red to anger. So clearly, while we're all looking at the same piece of paper, not everyone reacts the same way. And just as colors can cause different reactions, so can words. And we have a story from our marriage that is another example of that. This was early on when we were newly married and we were watching a football game. I was cheering for my team. It was a close game, very exciting.
He's a much bigger football fan than I am.
But at the last minute of the game, my team lost in dramatic fashion, and I was upset about it. But Regina, who was, she cared, and she cared that I was disappointed, but just simply said, "I'm sorry," and very genuine, very very kind. But I didn't take it well. I kind of snapped back at her and said, "What are you apologizing for? You didn't do anything." And that wasn't the right way to react in the heat of the moment, but we made the realization afterwards that, the same words meant different things to the two of us.
I was saying, I'm sorry your team lost. I feel sorry that you feel bad, was basically all I was saying, and he didn't really take that well.
She was showing empathy. But to me, I'm sorry is something you say when you've done something wrong, when you're at fault, versus the more, general usage that she had. So there are probably many examples where each of you use words differently than the other person, and being aware of that will help you guys communicate.
Absolutely. So this is one way that you consider the lens that you may be perceiving the world, or your spouse may be perceiving the world. So how can we manage our perception, our own perception, to bring about a positive change in communication in a relationship? One way to think about this is as if each of us is a manager in our own relationship. And the best managers, at least in my experience, have been the ones who always find a way to bring out the best in people. They don't expect to just nitpick and find the worst in their employees. They don't feel validated when they find faults. The best manager you've ever had is likely someone who is encouraging, who makes you feel good about yourself. And that person does their best to appreciate everything you do, and then help you to improve if there's something that they find that's at fault.
How you perceive your partner impacts how you respond to them, and then subsequently how they respond to you. If you look for the best in your partner, you'll almost always find something to love and respect in that person. But on the opposite end, if you are looking to find fault, if you're looking for the worst in someone, you'll probably never be satisfied, no matter how hard they're trying.
So the lens that we each use to perceive our spouse's message is only one half of communication, though. The flip side is how the message is delivered. We do each have a different style of communication. Chris and I are very different people who communicate very differently. You might be passive, you might be assertive, you might be aggressive. There's any variety of ways to communicate. There are so many articles and books about communication styles, and you might find them helpful just to try to understand your own and potentially your fiance's style of communication. And the better you can understand how each of you communicates, I think the easier it will be to maintain positive communication throughout your relationship.
Absolutely. That self-awareness is invaluable. So communication will be critical as you get married and further build your relationship. And before you get married, there's many, many important topics to communicate about. I'm sure that you've discussed so many already, but we'd suggest one article that we thought was very interesting. It's from 2016 in the New York Times, and you could find it titled 13 Questions to Ask Before Marriage. Lots of them are what you would guess, but they might be a good prompt for continuing conversations you've already had or starting conversations on subjects you haven't talked about yet. And similar to the focus survey, it might just highlight things that you want to spend more time communicating about. just a couple examples out of the 13. Will we have kids? And if so, how will we approach that? How will we, will we both work, for example? Or, how do we each value religion in our lives? And how will we celebrate holidays in that light? So,
Um, so as we mentioned earlier, sometimes it can be easy to fall out of communication, good, positive communication habits. And we wanted to just share a few ideas of things that we've done in our own relationship and in our own lives that we think help us to maintain a positive and strong level of communication. The first thing we really do is try to make date night a priority. Whether it's, just a quick and easy dinner out or just going on a walk together or something. It's a time for us to just talk without any distractions and without other people around, without the kids right there at the same table with us. And you don't have children yet, most likely, but when you do, or if you do, time on your own will become critical.
absolutely. And along the same theme, on a little bigger scale, we've also, on a number of occasions, gone on vacation by ourselves. Even after having kids, we've been able to do that. We've been fortunate to be able to do that. But just a larger block of time where we can be by ourselves, not being with family or friends, and being able to focus on each other.
Um, I think that when we're either on our date nights or on vacations, just that time alone gives us an opportunity to talk about how we envision our future, whether it's, what we're thinking, things about our children or, retirement homes at this point, and where are we going to live someday, or where's our next vacation going to be, or our next remodeling project in our house. There's so many things that we tend to discuss when we're alone together that don't often come out just in the day-to-day aspects of life. And it's nice to sort of have those shared goals and ways that we can have things to shoot for together and things that we're working on as the next step in our relationship. Those all tend to come out on those date nights and in vacation.
Something else we'd say about communication, obviously we've mentioned family and children a number of times. If you do have children, that is a game changer. And the same way you both have different communication styles, you'll both have different parenting styles. And it's so important to discuss how you want to parent.
You won't always agree.
And approach that as a team. So many different topics to discuss and compromises to make, but it's definitely something where communication is critical.
And one of the last things that we have found ourselves doing, as much as it's really kind of cheesy and corny and a little embarrassing, is frequently we have music playing in the kitchen when we're making dinner or eating dinner. And there have been more than a handful of occasions when Chris and I will just hear a song that for whatever reason we enjoy or we remember, and we will dance in the kitchen together. And it embarrasses the heck out of our kids. But it is something that I think brings us both back to connecting and remembering that we're in this together, and it's something that I think we both find refreshing and enjoyable. So basically, enjoy each other, have fun together. That's what we're trying to say.
There are plenty of opportunities for spontaneous moments that can reconnect the two of you. Mm-hmm. As a wrap up to this segment on communication, we just wanted to share a quote from a homily by the Monsignor on
in 2017.
Yes, 2017. And it said, "We live in a time when through social media and a news cycle that never ends, countless people give their opinions on all the issues of the day, whether it be taxes, immigration, healthcare, or the treatment of women in the workplace. However, there does not seem to be a lot of listening and trying to understand. I'm reminded of a quote I read recently. The only reason why we ask others how their weekend was is so we can tell them about our own. It is by our words that others will know Jesus, but it is also in the listening."
Definitely key in any relationship. So Thank you for listening to us today. We hope this was valuable. We hope it's helping you to be a little bit more aware of how you and your fiance communicate and how important communication will be throughout your marriage. We look forward to hopefully meeting you very soon in a few weeks. And that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Bye.